Let's get going. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for today's special discussion about McKinsey's approach to transforming operational excellence in high-volume production environment. My name is Elie. I manage business development for Matics, real-time operational intelligence for manufacturing, and I will be your moderator for today. Joining me are Mr. Ariel Davidson, Associate Partner with McKinsey Israel, and Mr. Zacchary Couldrick, Consulting UK Managing Director at Matics. In the first part of this event, Mr. Davidson will discuss McKinsey's framework for operational excellence and the role of leadership in making this transformation stick. In the second part, Mr. Couldrick will discuss current challenges to supply chains and ways for manufacturers to overcome them. We will leave some time for Q&A at the end. As you all know, manufacturers are currently standing at a very exciting crossroad, right at the early stages of a major paradigm shift, or a leap forward. We call it Industry 4.0, our own dramatic designation of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, I'm sure that you've noticed the term unprecedented times being thrown around a lot these past couple of years. So in preparation for today's discussion, I went back to McKinsey's archives to see whether things really changed, meaning have mindsets changed, or is it just technologies that have improved? 10 years ago, we were also building back to recover from a financial crisis. In 2008, much like today, McKinsey had to adapt its approach when guiding the growth strategies for its manufacturing clients. Back then, the emphasis was, at least when approaching operational excellence, was placed on unlocking the value of human and organizational capital, a value hindered by organizational silos, miscommunication, miscoordination, and poor planning. The discourse was mainly about how to divide work correctly within the organization, about good training, cultivating good cross-team relationships, pay better attention to contract and supplier management, and the importance of holistic planning across the supply chain. In the past, a good advice about managing innovation would be to improve inter-organizational coordination and communication. Innovation was oftentimes linked to developing new products to sell, but things have changed. A lot of these post-2008 perspectives focus on individual employees and managers as the main vehicles driving operational improvement. Systematically embedding knowledge or operational knowledge in general was not placed at the forefront of companies' innovation considerations. At that point in time, the question was, what are we producing and how many? But therein lies the gospel of Industry 4.0. Much like during preceding leaps forward, over the last decade, the question to ask is, how are we producing? By 2022, the notion of managing innovation became inextricably tied with operations, with operational process improvement, and cost reduction, which places production practices at the forefront of manufacturing enterprises' innovation strategy. McKinsey is a key influence on the evolution of global approaches and discourse towards operational excellence. Therefore, it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ariel Davidson. Ariel leads McKinsey Israel's operational excellence, Industry 4.0, and leadership development practices. Ariel, how are you today?
I'm good, Elie. Thank you for inviting me to speak about a topic I'm extremely passionate of, the operational excellence transformation. So let me start with, first of all, sharing my screen. So obviously when Elie and the team from Matics offered me the opportunity to speak about operational excellence, I immediately jumped on it. I must say it's a very big topic that, it takes years to practice and perfect. I tried in the next 25 to 30 minutes to summarize 3 points. First of all, share our perspective on why it is needed. Second is high-level overview of how we approach it when we work with our clients. And the third point is some guidelines on things that you should make sure you take into account if you embark on such a challenge. So let's start with why. Why is operational excellence transformation needed? And the reason is that the pace of change is accelerating. You can see Shanghai in the 90s versus the same area in Shanghai today. You can see that the internet was an idea on a piece of paper in the 90s, and today, we have it in our as a wearable on our wrist, and it's inside our products and everywhere we go. And the issue is that some companies are unable to adapt to this change. And quoting Jack Welch, when the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside, the end is in sight. And just to offer you some facts behind this quote, this chart shows the average lifespan of a company in the S&P 500 by year. So how to read it is, if a company in 1935 was in the S&P 500, it was expected to remain there for 90 years. You can see that nowadays, if a company is in the S&P 500, it's expected to be there or last for 14 years. It means that in 7 years, an average of 7 years, half of the company currently in the S&P 500 will not be there anymore. So the pace of change is accelerating. A lot of companies are unable to match the pace, and they simply don't survive. So let's talk about operational excellence. There are different ways on how to adapt for change. There are agile transformation, and there are other methodologies. One of the methodologies we use in a very successful way with a lot of our industrial clients is an operational excellence transformation. And what I wanted to align on is what do we mean when we say operational excellence transformation. So operational excellence transformation is not just something that you do on the shop floor. It's not limited to a repetitive assembly line. It's definitely not a one-off improvement program. And it's not a menu of tools and technique that you deploy. And in many cases, when we work with clients, we see that they've tried in the past to do an operational excellence transformation using this type of mindset about operational excellence. I see a lot of clients trying to deploy tools such as 5S or Kaizen or Kanban. Operational excellence from our perspective is firstly a culture. It's a cultural change that is backed up by an integrated system of principles, operating practices, methodologies that are focused on continuously creating value for the customer by minimizing waste and adapting to change. And let's also align on what do we mean by a transformation. So when you are saying operational excellence transformation, a transformation is a significant step change in performance achieved in a short period of time, establishing a continuous improvement. And to illustrate what I mean, so if you don't have a step change, right? If you have just a gradual increase in performance, what actually happens is that it's not sustained, and you don't really, you're not creating the momentum and the energy to really do the shift in culture. When there is no significant change, then you're putting a lot of effort, but your results, your financial results, your operational KPIs are not really improving, and you're wasting time, energy, and resources. And a lot of time with a lot of managerial focus, you can create a step change, so a significant step change. But then you don't establish a culture of continuous improvement, and the change that you created in a short period of time does not last. So when we are saying transformation, it means a significant change in a short amount of time that drives you into a period of continuous improvement. The sad fact is that changing is hard. So a survey done by Cotter in 1995 estimated that only 30% of transformation succeed. In a survey that we did in the 2000, we found out that only 30% of transformation succeeded. Gardner published a survey in 2005 and found out that only 30% of transformation succeed. We did since then 2 additional surveys in 2010 and 2015, and the statistics do not change. So going or doing a transformational change is very hard. And if you don't do it in a professional and structured approach, the chances of succeeding are low. So what I want to share with you today is what is our approach when we are embarking on such a important and difficult change. So when we think about operational excellence transformation, we are thinking about 3 dimensions or 3 elements that should be optimized. First is the technical system, and I think that should be clear for all of us. The technical system is the assets and the resources that we are using in order to create value for the customer. So it's the line, how well we are using our lines and our assets, how much waste we are producing in the process, how productive is our workforce. So these are all the technical elements that we should certainly focus on. The other element is the management system. So what are the formal structures, processes, and systems that we manage, that we use in order to manage the technical system? And this includes the KPI, the routines, the standards, the infrastructure that we have in place in order to make sure that our assets and resources are fully optimized. And the third element, which is often neglected, is the people system. And by people system, we mean the way people think, the way people feel, the way people behave in the workplace. And again, to illustrate why all 3 dimensions are needed, if you only focus on the technical system, if you don't focus on the technical system, you can create high engagement and motivation, but you won't have any impact. And I think that is obvious. If you neglect to take into account the management system, you will not have a lasting change. So you will be able to change, but over time, you will not be able to sustain and maintain the change and drive the continuous improvement that is needed. And if you neglect the people system, the people element, you won't have the adherence and the engagement that you need in order to really drive this over a long period of time. So what is our approach to a transformation? When we look at the company or at the site, we focus on an area where we do what we call a transformational wave. It's a 12 to 16 weeks of a sprint that is structured along 3 elements. The first element is a diagnostics, where the focus of the diagnostic is to assess the current state and hold a mirror to what's happening at the department. Basically, here what we are doing is we identifying the KPIs to improve. Normally, it's the OEE, it's the labor productivity, it's the waste. Then what the second objective is to assess the current state and the potential improvement. And here, a lot of time, what we see is that the OEE measurement is not really well captured. Here we use a lot of observations, data collections, in order to establish a baseline and really understand what is the current situation in terms of the KPIs that we want to improve. And then on thinking what is the potential improvement, we have few ways that we do that. We do that. First of all, we have benchmarks, and you can get industry benchmarks. You can get benchmark from the OEM, and the most powerful thing is an internal benchmark, either from a different line or historically looking at what was the OE and assessing through comparison of historical performance what it could be if you really improve it. The third element in the diagnostic phase is to really identify the key drivers for performance loss. And here, just continuing with the example of the OEE measurement, once we do the observation and we analyze the OEE, we can see large variability in setup times or lengthy setup times. We can compare setup times between different operators and really see that there is a lot of wasted time in setups. Again, through measurements and observation, we find a lot of frequent and recurring minor stops that everyone knows of and everyone is fed up with, but no one has taken a systematic approach on how to reduce them and solve them. We do observation and measure the time it takes to a technician to come to the machine and solve the issue. And a lot of the mean time to repair, we identify a lot of waste in this process of identifying the issue, getting to the machine, fixing it. And a lot of the improvement is actually not by improving how it is fixed, but shortening the time it takes from the issue occurs to getting the technician to the machine. And the last point in the diagnostic phase, which is extremely important, you do all of the above, identify the KPIs, assess the current state, assess the potential, identify key drivers and root causes for performance loss in order to really get buy-in of the management and the employees in that specific area that you're diagnosing. An important element, and you'll see it in a second in the next phase, an important element of an operational excellence transformation is to really create engagement and buy-in by the relevant managers and workers that will need to change the way they work. And if you are not able to create that, that's a way to lose momentum and not be able to really drive the change. The second phase is a design phase, and this is again, it's the length of the design phase varies, but between 4 to 6 weeks. And the objective of the design phase is to really set an inspiring future state in order to mobilize the team. And what we do in the design phase is we define the ideal state based on what we've found in the diagnostic. So what is the OE target that we are striving for? How do we want the operator role to look like? What should the operator do versus what he is doing today? What should be the line, the layout of the line? How should our shift structure be changed or look? How do we want the storage to look like? What do we want the working environment to look and feel? So it's all about thinking and defining the future state or the ideal state that we want to strive to. Then the second point in the design phase is to identify and develop solutions and initiatives to address and minimize the key performance losses. So for example, if we want to standardize and improve the role of the operator, we create and we use visual standards for line setups, because in the diagnostic, we found that the setup is not standardized and there are lengthy setups, and some operators or some departments, the setup are done in a very quick way, but others are doing it in a longer way. We standardize the setup with visual standards that then we deploy on the line. We establish a routine and develop tools for root cause problem solving. This is an excellent tool to address the frequent reoccurring minor stops. Once you establish a routine and you develop root cause problem solving tools, you are able to start one by one addressing those stops and fixing them. In many cases, we digitize the whole breakdown or technician process, and by digitizing the whole breakdown notification and repair, we are able to shorten the time it takes to notify the technician, get the technician to the line and fix the problem. An important element at this phase is also to create a very clear implementation plan and leading KPIs to measure. So obviously the KPIs that we've identified at the beginning are, we want to improve the OEE, we want to improve the waste, we want to improve productivity, but all of these are lagging KPIs. Once we start the implementation, what is important is to have clear leading KPIs to measure that what we want to change actually changes. And a very effective tool and measurement to do that is process confirmation. And again, taking the example of lengthy or high variability in setup times, designing a visual standard on how to do the setup. Then we build a process confirmation procedure where the line manager joins the operator when he does the setup to check that he's doing the setup according to the standard, and gives a score on how well did he do the setup and was it according to the standard or not. And the last element in the design phase is we make sure to create ownership on the solutions by the relevant stakeholders. And this is done basically with a lot of co-creation, and not just the managers or McKinsey come up with the solutions, but really involving people in workshops to come up with solutions. Then going to the third phase, and again, this phase is 6 to 8 weeks in a sprint, is to start implementing what we've designed and create momentum. And there are 3 things that we focus on. First of all is implementing the priority levers to capture the benefits. So starting to do the setups according to the new standard. This is something that we will do in the implementation. We start to run the department or the site in the new ways of working. So typically we have a new sets of KPIs, we set up visual boards, but it's not enough just to define what are the KPIs and what are the visual boards. You really need to start managing the performance management together with the line managers in the new way, using the new tools, basically in order to build the capabilities. And also, once you start implementing stuff, you identify the things that you thought are could be done during the design phase are actually hard or require some changes, and we use that in order to correct design elements. And the last point is really use the implementation in order to role model the new behaviors and mindsets that we want to establish at the site. So this is in a very high level, the key principles or key objectives of how we take an area of a site and transform it or initiate the transformation. What I want to share now is a few guiding principles that we use when doing such a transformation. So we discussed that change is very hard, and operational excellence is first and foremost a cultural change, but changing behavior is hard. And when you look at statistics on people who already suffered from a heart attack and were told that you must stop smoking or you're putting your life at risk, the percent of people who have changed after such an event is 10%. Okay, but when you create behavioral change program, or you take the change behavior in a structured way and design an approach on how to change the behavior, the chances increase to 77%. And when we think about how to change behaviors, we use the influence model. Okay, and everything that we've discussed is a change of behavior. If we want to set up, or if we want to implement a new process of doing setup, this requires someone to do something in a different way. So when you think about this, almost everything you do in an operational excellence transformation requires someone to work differently. And the way to think of how you enable someone to change the way he works is through these four elements. First, you need to really take the time and explain the why. Tell me, why do I need to do it differently? And this is a lot of time overlooked, or is being looked at from the manager's perspective. So we need shortened setups because we want to produce more, because we want to sell more. But if the line operator doesn't care about selling more, then it will not really speak to him. So really think about how to communicate the why of what we are doing from the person who needs to change the behavior perspective. The second element is what are the reinforcement mechanisms and structures and processes. So make sure that beyond just communicating the why, you also put in place mechanisms to measure that the behavior that you want to see is happening. And we talked about this is the process confirmation. This could be done through a digital performance management tool. So that's the second element. The third element is teach, build capabilities. You want people to do something differently. You assume that they will be able to do it. A lot of the time, it's not the case, and we really need to make sure that we plan some kind of a capability building program when we implement any behavioral change. And the most important element, which is again a lot of time neglected, is the role modeling. And I'll speak about this in a couple of slides. But really, if you want people to do something in a different way, then it's not enough that you tell them why or what's in it for them. It's not enough that you put in the reinforcement mechanism. It's not enough that you teach them how to do it, but you really need to role model the new behavior that you're asking. The second guideline is creating engagement, and here I will use a simple example from an experiment that was done. Basically, there were two groups of people. One that received a lottery ticket with the numbers already chosen for them, and one group that received an empty lottery ticket where they had to choose the numbers. And after in the experiment, after each group got the tickets, they were offered money to buy back from them the tickets. And the results were amazing, because the people who took the time to circle numbers and choose the numbers from themselves asked for more money to sell back the ticket than people who just got the tickets already filled. And I think this demonstrates the power of engagement. So one of the elements that we make sure to put a lot of emphasis on is really co-creating the solutions together with the people who will need to change the way they work. The third element I wanted to share with you is really identifying who's on your boat. And when we're talking about who's on my boat, we divide it into 4 different typecasts. So you have the castaways, the ones that are not aware or committed to the change. They are not involved. They are disinterested. They will not take the leap of faith together with you. You have the mutineers, the ones that are actively opposing to the change. You have the crew, who are the ones that are interested in the program, but are lacking the skills and knowledge to contribute to it. And you have your captains, the ones who are fully supportive of the program or the change and are also high performing and have the skills. And it's really important to identify who's who on your boat and take actions against each. And the actions are, you need to empower your captains, you challenge them, you assign them to leadership roles, you give them more responsibility. You need to train your crew in order to hopefully turn them also into captains. You need to act quickly, and this is the most important thing on your mutineers, to either try and convert them with, and normally to convert them, what is required is real impact and examples of real impact. But if not, you really need to find a way to sideline them to minimize the negative impact. And you really should ignore the castaways. A lot of time, we've seen transformation where a lot of time is spent on trying to convince the castaways. That's a waste of time. The most important thing is to address the mutineers. When we do our surveys on successful transformation and unsuccessful transformation, the number one regret of change leaders is not moving faster to neutralize the people that were resistant to change. So that's an important element. Identify who is who on your boat and really act on the mutineer, captain, and crew. In the 2 minutes I have left, I want to share with you the last the guiding principle, which was part of the influence model, and it's role model, role model, role model. Your role as leaders of operational excellence transformation, or your most important role, is to role model the change that you want to see happening in your site or in your department. And again, based on a lot of experience with transformations, we see leadership who wants the change to happen, who wants people to change, but they themselves are not flexible enough and not changing themselves. And if that doesn't happen, then the whole change will not happen. So with that, Elie, I'm passing it back to you.
Ariel, thank you for an illuminating and fascinating presentation. We will have some space for questions in the end. I'm sure that everybody would love to pick your brain. But let me just move to our next speaker. Up next, we have Mr. Zacchary. Zach leads Matics operations in the UK, and therefore is very well situated to discuss the main challenges and pinpoints that manufacturers experience that you guys are working on towards transforming. Zach, it's good to have you on board.
First of all, thanks, Elie, for the introduction. And thanks, Ariel, for the excellent presentation. I thought it was really, really insightful and can relate very much to that in terms of projects we've been working on with manufacturers here in the UK and even some of our own businesses as well. So I'm not going to do War and Peace, or I think the people came to listen to Ariel. I'll do a very short few slides here today to kind of explain our approach towards transformational excellence as well, because it's very much at the heart of everything we do here at Matics. And some of the market challenges and reasons why this is becoming more and more prevalent, in the UK and further afield at the current time. So we believe we can change the way people work in factories and improve results, efficiencies, all the stuff that Ariel's talked about in his slides today. the big problem we see, and it's kind of proven, even the very best manufacturing plants are below half their theoretical output. And the problem is that machines are not being used or underutilized. There's waste on materials, labor isn't accurately trained, and a number of issues create production issues for manufacturing companies. And that's where the problem that we're trying to help solve, and obviously going through a transformational excellence program will help you with as well. Coupled at the moment with a number of global market challenges, there's rising costs of materials and utilities, as everybody knows. There's shortage in supply of machines and equipment. It's very difficult to get the equipment, any new equipment, to expand what you do. So you need to be able to do more with what you've got. Obviously, supply chain issues. But one that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I think is very relevant to what we were talking about here today, is the skills gap and baby boomers retiring. So a lot of the key information and intelligence around existing processes and what's worked for decades sits with a number of people who are now approaching retirement age. And what we see and hear a lot when we're talking with manufacturers is that they need to basically take that knowledge and put it into a digital environment or capture it so it's passed on to colleagues and employees and get their standard operating procedures into a digital environment. What is the driving cause of low productivity? It's a combination of human systems, training deficiency, management, a lack of management oversight, procedural problems, and human error. So we believe a holistic approach that is human-focused and centric is the only thing that can significantly improve shop floor productivity and help you achieve transformational excellence. And this is why we have different systems for different employees. And we help manufacturers move to real-time operational intelligence and management of the shop floor, which basically our system enables you to follow the processes that Ariel talked about in his transformation, 16-week transformation. And we see that in the results as well. So we deliver different applications to different stakeholders because, as Ariel quite rightly pointed out, you do need to get adoption for programs and digital transformation programs to be successful. So there's no point in having a one size fits all, is our belief. We create different applications for planners, operators, QC, managers, maintenance engineers, but they're all interconnected. So everyone can collaborate and communicate effectively across the shop floor. Why is this important? So the Industry 4 path sees that over 80% of the market is still in the early stages of computerizing and actually having connectivity to know what is going on the shop floor in real time and accurately. Many of the manufacturers we've been working with over the last couple of years here in the UK actually openly admit that their current data is very flawed. It's all based on human reporting, spreadsheets, paper, which is open to mistakes and interpretation. And we quickly see that statistics and KPIs that manufacturers believe they're at are very different once we implement a digital nowhere to hide system. But what that also does, and what we really believe in, is once you create visibility and transparency and predictive capability, your team will start to improve results naturally because they're aware of what's going on, they can see what's going on, and they can react in real time. And this is the other key element. It's about reducing the timeline from an event, whether that's a machine failure or an issue with materials, to action. And a bit like Ariel explained with the maintenance engineers, if you can call for using a digital system in real time and react in real time, the speed from that event to a countermeasure taking effect is shortened dramatically. And what we believe is really important is making that kind of real time communication element inside your digital system. So this is kind of an overview of the priorities and the mid-market challenges. At Matics, we're focused on specific verticals within manufacturing and the mid-market, and we believe we can help tick off many of these boxes that our clients are focused on. So where do we specialize? Plastics, rubber, paper, packaging, bottling and filling. We're working with more than 130 factories worldwide, operating 24/7. And we deliver them a cloud-based platform, which you've seen some of the interfaces very briefly, but effectively it captures data in high resolution, aggregates that and brings it back to the cloud, so computerizes it into a cloud environment separate that you don't need to manage, gives real-time continuous analysis and prediction, and then it enables the collaboration and the automation. And then the final stage is, now that you can see what's going on, you can see the issues, you can start to create process automation and task management in order to preempt and do machine maintenance before you know it's going to fail or you're going to have issues. We leverage the latest in technologies. So it's IoT technologies in the shop floor, cloud computing outside of the shop floor, and then giving the right tools and analytics and prediction into the different applications. And what does this bring? We see a speed to value. I think you talked about 16 weeks, Ariel, in your presentation. We see sort of similar in that 10-week period of diagnosing and designing new systems and really thinking about how you're going to use a tool like Matics and improve your shop floor transformation. Efficiency gains can be delivered within 4 weeks. We see machine availability goes up, rejects go down, energy consumption and material waste goes down. So that's kind of a very whistle-stop introduction to Matics. I think it's relevant to the conversation today because effectively we're talking about transformational excellence, and there's lots of different processes and procedures you need to think about, but it's also about moving systems into a digital manner with Industry 4 initiatives. So Elie, I'm going to hand back to you and then we can wrap up.
Zach, first of all, thank you so much for sharing the insight. I thought it was a brilliant interplay between a company like McKinsey that have the perspective with the overall approach to organizational change, and this day and age in which we have the innovative tools to augment and improve that process, giving a very interesting view to the future. First, thank you so much for the both of you for participating and sharing your insights. It was incredible listening to you and learning a lot. Thank you for all the guests, for all the attendees for joining us today. Although we didn't have time for questions, our emails will be enclosed along with a recording of this webinar, and feel free to reach out and ask and inquire and debate and discuss these very exciting changes. If you want to learn more about digital transformation and operational optimization, you're welcome to visit at www.matics.live. And until next time, please take care.